We're just gonna start off with a short video that just gives you some basic information about how a computer works. I hope.
My name is Meili Koo, and I'm a designer and an inventor. So some of the things I've designed have been at Apple, and now I design products for kids to use so that they can have an easier time in school. My other jobs include DJing and dancing. Computers are everywhere. They're in people's pockets, they're in people's cars, people have them on their wrists, they might be in your backpack right now. But what makes a computer a computer?
What does make a computer anyway?
And how does it even work?
Hi, I'm Nat. I was one of the original designers of the Xbox. I've been working with computers since I was maybe 7 years old, and now I work on virtual reality. As humans, we've always built tools to help us solve problems. Tools like a wheelbarrow, a hammer, or a printing press, or a tractor trailer. All of these inventions helped us with manual work. Over time, people began to wonder if a machine could be designed and built to help us with the thinking work we do, like solving equations or tracking the stars in the sky. Rather than moving or manipulating physical things like dirt and stone, these machines would need to be designed to manipulate information.
As the pioneers of computer science explored how to design a thinking machine, they realized that it had to perform 4 different tasks. It would need to take input, store information, process it, and then output the results. Now this might sound simple, but these 4 things are common to all computers. And that's what makes a computer a computer.
The earliest computers were made out of wood and metal with mechanical levers and gears. By the 20th century, though, computers started using electrical components. These early computers were really large and really slow. A computer the size of a room might take hours just to do a basic math problem.
These machines are things of gleaming, vari-colored metal and numerous flashing lights.
Computers started out as basic calculators, which was already really awesome at the time, and they were only manipulating numbers back then. But now we can use them to talk to each other, we can use them to play games, control robots, and do any crazy thing that you could probably imagine.
Modern computers look nothing like those clunky old machines, but they still do these same 4 things.
First, we're going to talk about input. This is my favorite because what input is the stuff that the world does or that you do that makes the computer do stuff. You can tell a computer what to do with the keyboard, you can tell them what to do with the mouse, the microphone, the camera, and now if you're wearing a computer on your wrist, it might listen to your heartbeat, or in your car, it might be listening to what the car is doing, and a touch screen can actually sense your finger and it takes that as input on what it's doing.
All these different inputs give a computer information which is then stored in memory. A computer's processor takes information from memory, it manipulates it or changes it using an algorithm, which is just a series of commands, and then it sends the processed information back to be stored in memory again. This continues until the processed information is ready to be output. How a computer outputs information depends on what the computer is designed to do. A computer display can show text, photos, videos, or interactive games, even virtual reality. The output of a computer may even include signals to control a robot. And when computers connect over the internet, the output from one computer becomes the input to another, and vice versa.
The computers we use today look really different from the earliest thinking machines. And who knows what the computers of tomorrow will be like. My hope is that you get to help decide what you want the computers of tomorrow to look like. But across all computers, regardless of the different types of technology they use, they're always doing the same 4 things. They take in information, they store it as data, they process it, and then they output the results.
Mouse, where are you? Wake up. Okay, wait, I'm just gonna try it this way. Yes. So we're gonna take a look at BIOS, which is the firmware that's on your computer. It's short for Basic Input-Output Systems, and it's a read-only memory chip found on the motherboard. It's firmware, and it is originally describing the low-level software necessary for hardware to work with software. The intermediary between the actual microprocessors and the operating system and the software a user runs. It's a type of software that lives on the hardware and contains specific instructions sets that allow the hardware to interface with higher level software like the operating system. All hardware requires some form of firmware to work. Firmware often lacks a user interface that can be accessed from higher level software like the operating system. Firmware is like the engine in your car. You can't see it while you're driving, and you don't interact with it directly, but you know it's crucially important. In the same way, you don't really use firmware, but it's fundamental to basically every device on the planet. Firmware doesn't have to be firm, and it can and often is updated to add new features or fix bugs. And like an engine, its complexity and updatability can vary wildly depending on the use case. The BIOS includes instructions on how to load your basic computer hardware. It includes a test known as a POST, Power On Self-Test, that helps verify the computer meets the requirements to boot up properly. If the computer does not pass the POST, you hear a combination of beeps indicating what is malfunctioning in the computer. The bootstrap loader locates the operating system and will pass control to the system if it's a functioning, healthy system. The BIOS drivers give the computer basic operational control over your computer's hardware, printer, keyboard, mouse, external drives, etc. Just this morning, for example, I plugged this thing in to here because I thought that's what Joe said to do. And when I pressed this button up here, my computer went dead, nothing, no screen. So then I'm going, okay, unplug it. And it immediately goes to the BIOS setup because it thought that I had totally destroyed. It didn't recognize whatever it was, so it would not function. It would not move past because it didn't pass that POST test. So then we had to play with it to make it come back on. So I'm just gonna play a quick little video here. I can make my mouse do things. Just a quick explanation and pictures of what BIOS is.
In this video, I will explain what is the BIOS. Did you ever see the word BIOS pop up on your screen when starting your computer?
This morning.
Or heard people talk about changing things in the BIOS? But then you never see or hear about it again. So BIOS is a thing, but we never really see it because it's located on the motherboard, which is the main circuit board inside your computer. What is BIOS and why do we need it? What is BIOS? BIOS is an initialization of Basic Input-Output System, and that's why we just call it the BIOS. It is a program that is permanently stored on a chip in a computer. Programs that are permanently stored on a chip are referred to as firmware. BIOS is the first program run when a computer is turned on. It runs even before the operating system, OS, like Windows or iOS. When we say computer, that includes servers, PCs, Macs, smartphones, and tablets. It could be just about any device like that. What does BIOS do? The overall goal of the BIOS is to get everything in the computer ready to work so that the OS can be started. First, it checks all the hardware in the computer to make sure it is there, that it works, and that it has access to the driver programs they need to run. This is called the Power On Self-Test, POST. BIOS gets the information on how to do this from Extended System Configuration Data, ESCD. The ESCD is stored on Non-Volatile Random Access Memory, NVRAM. There may be some differences in how this is set up depending on the make and model of the computer. The BIOS then tells the computer where to look for the OS. If the OS is there and working, then the computer finishes starting, and we can enjoy the magic of modern computing. If we worked in a kitchen, BIOS would be the prep cook that turns on the stove, reads the menu for the day, gets the ingredients ready and laid out mice and place. The OS is the chef that jumps in, grabs the ingredients, goes to the stove, and does their magic. Where is BIOS stored? The BIOS firmware resides on a chip called a complementary metal oxide semiconductor, CMOS. The CMOS is a non-volatile type of read-only memory, so the BIOS firmware stays on there permanently. The settings that it uses, however, can be wiped out. That's why there's a watch-style battery on the motherboard of the computer. The battery keeps the circuit working 24/7 so the settings stay there. Remember this. Those batteries are only good for 3 to 5 years. It's about a $5 battery. If we take a little time to learn how to access the BIOS and configure it, then
They're gonna go into stuff that probably none of us are ever gonna do. Just, if you have a problem like that, you just go to the geeks at the Staples store and they'll fix it for you.
we can,
Oops.
in this,
So now we have the operating system. We've looked a previous class at hardware. Now we've seen a little bit about what's called firmware, and now we're going to start with software. So the first step you have to have is some sort of an operating system. It's the interface between the computer user and the computer hardware. It's a software that performs all the basic tasks like file management, memory management, process management, handling your input and output, and controlling devices, such as disk drives and printers. Microsoft Windows, the one that's on the laptops, is a group of operating systems that are manufactured by Microsoft. Is Microsoft Windows. It's available in 32 and 64-bit versions and offers a graphical user interface. So it shows you what it's doing. And support for several peripheral devices you can plug in. For example, I'm plugged in to this screen. You can also plug in a mouse because you may not like the little trackpad that it has. Like I don't like the trackpads. And Mac OS, so that's on the Apple computers that we see. It's the operating system for Apple desktops and laptops, and it's a proprietary graphical operating system that powers every Mac. Proprietary means Apple owns it, Apple chooses what goes on Apple, and you don't change Apple. So the Apple iOS is the proprietary operating system used on mobile devices by Apple, such as iPhone and iPads. The Android operating system, so if anybody has a Samsung or a tablet, that's an Android operating system. And it's a mobile operating system that was developed by Google to be primarily used for touchscreen devices, cell phones, and tablets. Its design lets users manipulate the mobile devices intuitively with finger movements so that you can pinch things or move things, swiping, tapping. The Chrome OS is an operating system launched by Google that is designed for users who spend a large amount of time using the internet and web applications, and it is designed around the key expectations of pace, ease of use, and security. So the next we take a look at is the human interface devices. So it's how we give the information to the computer. So which ones are you familiar with and you're thinking of right now? How do you give the information to the computer?
Keyboard.
Yep, keyboard.
Mouse.
Mouse, right, yeah.
Finger.
Finger, right, yes,
A lot
the
of
finger.
swearing.
You can talk to it. You can swear, you're right, you can swear at it, yes. Even Siri, but Siri doesn't like it when you swear at her. My grandson once called Siri stupid because she couldn't find a music thing. He was 4, I think, at the time. He's trying to get Siri to play a music, so he finally gave it up. It didn't work. I'm sorry you feel that way. So what about output from the computer? What kind of devices give us information?
Printer?
A printer, yeah.
Screen.
The screen, yeah. What other ways can, like, think about games that you play, if you play games on the computer. We have this little pad you stand on, and then you lean different ways, and you can play game. The screen shows what you're doing. I think it's Xbox, or it's Nintendo, one of the two, I don't know. And it has a joystick that comes with it that I don't know how to operate, but my grandchildren do. I get the comment, Grandma, can I help you with that? But that's an interface, right? That's giving the computer information. It comes back with information too. It tells you that your body mass index is wrong and that you need to lose weight, and it's terrible. That you don't have good balance, you need to improve it. Practice the more games that it has. So any device at all that you use to communicate with a computer, that's a human interface device. So there are differences in computer hardware and software. Microsoft Windows versus Apple. And this is kind of a piece I thought I'd put together in case you're really not knowing which one you want to buy or which one you want to go and pick up for yourself. Microsoft Windows and Mac OS each come with their own stack of first-party apps and programs. And you'll get the basics with both, including a web browser to explore the internet, a file explorer, calendar, voice recorder, video editor, widgets, cloud-based storage, and more. Windows and Macs have different names for similar Office tools. So Microsoft Office has Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Apple iWorks has Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. But given their similarities, it's hard to say which OS has better tools. Microsoft Office is more widely used because there are more Windows machines in the world. However, unlike Microsoft Office, iWork is completely free. It comes with your system. Whereas if you have a Microsoft Windows, you also have to purchase the Microsoft Office. It's not free. While any software that runs on Windows can be made to run on Mac OS, if you mimic a Windows environment on your Mac using software like Parallels, but that requires a lot of effort. Maybe if you're really not that computer savvy, it's probably not the best idea to try to mix the two. I think Joe could probably do that, but I don't think I could. Or I'd be running to Joe's house, help, all the time. Because of Windows' open nature, computers that run the operating system have been surrounded with viruses, spyware, ransomware, and other types of vicious malware. Since Windows can be found everywhere, it's no surprise that it must contend with so much malware. Microsoft has done an admirable job releasing security updates in recent years. However, given the sheer number of Windows users, the operating system is going to continue to suffer a greater volume of attacks than Mac would. Now, when they talk about open systems, the Microsoft system allows users who have an awareness how to change things and add things. They can do stuff to not me, but people who know what to do can actually go in and add and change. But you can't do that with a Mac. The Mac is contained, it's owned by Mac, and you don't change those. Next, tablets. So tablet differences. Google's Android and Apple's iOS are operating systems used primarily in mobile technology such as smartphones and tablets. Android is Linux-based and partly open source, so again, people can add to it and make changes. It's more PC-like than iOS in that its interface and basic features are generally more customizable from top to bottom. However, iOS uniform design elements are sometimes seen as being more user-friendly. You should choose your smartphone and tablet systems carefully, as switching from iOS to Android or vice versa will require you to buy Maps again in the Google system or the Apple Maps store. So if I think I'm tired of my old iPhone because it's not going to be supported by Apple anymore. I'm gonna have to buy a new one pretty soon. But if I was to go to an Android, well, now I have to buy all the things again that I've used on the Apple. So I probably won't change. I'll just get another Apple from someone. So that's good to think about those things. If you own an Android, you've already purchased all that stuff. So you'd have to have a really good reason for changing to Apple, because then you'd have to buy it all again. I think I got ahead of myself. So smartphones, the iPhone is a closed hardware and software ecosystem. Androids, you have easy to download apps from both official and unofficial sites. So that's, again, the Android can be changed and altered by the user. But for the most part, the rest of their features, they all have a built-in assistant. Their built-in assistants are also compatible with others. So the only one that you really need to look at then is, if you've already owned one, you probably don't want to change. But if you're looking at going into buying an Apple or an Android, then it just gives you information over what you want to do. The desktop computer. So desktop computers have an integrated memory system and integrated internal storage. USB, printer display, optional display. Most of them have Office products that can be used across different operating systems. So that's similar to the laptop computer as well. It has integrated screen keyboard, integrated internal storage, Wi-Fi. They all have similar things. And they all have a similar Office products that can be used. I think I probably don't have it correct in terms of their storage. I think most of their storage is 128 megabytes to 1 terabyte. So this is maybe a bit old information, the 8 to 128, that's kind of old. And then peripheral hardware. You connect all your peripheral hardware with a USB device. So my mouse connects with a USB. This system here is connected with a USB, but now we take a look at all the different kinds of USBs. So it started off that it was supposed to be a universal serial bus, a protocol and hardware standard for digital communications that was released originally in 1996. And the USB's primary aim originally hoped to standardize communication and power sources for computer peripherals. This universality has only recently come close to reality with the USB-C. So there's a picture of the USB-C at the bottom. Or actually, no, it's talking. In the particular advantage of USB-C over these previous connections is that it combines data and power, avoiding the need for independent power supplies for external devices. USB interfaces also typically require no additional configuration of data speed, input-output addresses, and memory access channels. So the USB devices are much more interchangeable. The flexibility continues to drive improvements in the USB standard, and its current model is the USB-C. So the USB-A was the most common and the most known, and it's the cable with the wider end, one wider end. Do I have that? No. We might look at them later. Just like the USB-A, it's the original designation for the two ends of a non-symmetrical cable. So what happens is that the data flow is bidirectional, but your power is only one way. It goes from the host to the peripheral or the receptor end. Then the USB-B is just like the USB-A, and the USB-C is the one apparently that simplifies all of these things so that it's bidirectional power and bidirectional data. So the USB-C is the latest one, and I don't have that one. Do you have one, Joe, that people could see?
I don't have one with me.
Okay, all right. Maybe we can bring one for the next time so we all know, because I don't have any of those. The USB-C monitors bring forth a higher quality home cinema experience, And so lots of the improvements with this new one, and hopefully we can see how we can make the most of that.
And Wendy,
Yes,
USB-C now, the European Common Market has just standardized that. You can't buy a device in Europe anymore without USB-C.
oh, okay.
They've outlawed anything previous to that.
Does that
Well-
mean we're going to probably follow step and everything will be USB-C?
Yeah, they're talking
Huh.
about legislation in Canada and the US.
So what happens to the equipment now that you have that uses the US?
Right, yeah.
The A or the B?
Then you buy the adapters from Amazon.
Okay.
And they make money there too.
Okay.
Cause I mean, literally, my stuff's, I don't know, maybe 4 or 3 years old, and all of mine, I have to have a power cord and the connector, right?
Well,
So,
my new MacBook and my iPad, they had the C, and of course I had all 1,000 USB-A and USB-B devices, and thumb drives and disk drives and everything.
and now you have,
Amazon sells you 6 or 8 adapters for $8.
that's not bad,
No
that's
big
okay.
deal.
Going. So, backing up your computer, biggie. I have, in the past, lost things. I had this little, I don't know, this little device that maybe that big when I went to university, because I went to university late in life, right? So it kept all my dates that I had to see the professor, all the classes, all the things, when are my assignments due, when are the tests, I had all that stuff in there. And people's phone numbers, and then I got this little message periodically that it said the battery needed to be replaced. And I'm like, oh, I don't have time, where do I go? I don't even know. So I thought, I'll get it. Well, one day it just died, that was it. And it was gone. All my information was gone, everything was gone. So backing up your systems is hugely important if you don't want to lose everything like I did. I went to a book after that, I didn't trust it anymore. So there's 6 strategies. Now, we'll watch the little video, and then we'll maybe go over some of the different things they're talking about, okay?
Idea to back up your files so you don't lose your photos or documents. You can back up your files by copying them to an external USB drive or to a cloud storage service like OneDrive. To back up to a USB drive, plug the drive into your Surface. Use File Explorer to right-click and drag your documents, pictures, music, and videos folders to the USB drive, and choose Copy Here. If you have files on your desktop or in other folders, copy those over too. Some things are backed up automatically because they're always stored in the cloud, as long as you're signed in using your Microsoft account. That includes contacts and accounts, which will sync to your Surface after you sign in, and apps, which you can reinstall from the store.
So it talked about a hard disk drive. I only have what's called a solid state drive. I think I brought it the last time. It's just this little tiny box, and you plug it into the computer and you choose what you want to back up, and it stores it on the box. It's really easy. You can also get them. Joe showed us the last time, this little teeny stick you can plug in. So there's all kinds of different ways. That's the USB flash drive. And there's also optical media, which is the old disk drives. I don't know if anybody uses those anymore. I'm not sure. You probably get them in movies, but I don't think you can even buy discs anymore to store information on. Can you? Have you seen them? Oh, okay. Huh?
I just don't have a disc
Yeah.
drive anymore.
Yeah, I don't have a disk drive either. Yeah.
Well, they have USB disk drives now.
Yeah, you can buy them and plug them in. The cloud storage, but then that's always an interesting one. I saw this one video, it came out of Australia, and she's talking about storing things on the cloud. It's like, so she's got this little box set up over here, and these guys are walking in and out of it and picking things up and taking things out and walking back and getting stuff and putting them over here again. And this guy's saying, well, that's your box? What are they doing? They're taking stuff out of your box. Well, yeah, that's what the cloud's like, she says. That's what the cloud is. Anybody can walk into my box and take stuff out. So it carried on for quite a while, but it gave you a really good understanding of the cloud storage is maybe not where you wanna put your stuff if you don't want someone knowing it. For example, your pictures, like, I don't know, my pictures are now on the iCloud, cause it just did it. But I didn't want my pictures on the iCloud, so, that's
Does
it.
anyone have access to your iPhone? Is that what you're saying?
Well, if you use cloud storage, Google, grabs your pictures.
Yeah,
Google.
Yeah, Google's
Yeah,
got-
yes.
yeah.
yeah, Google takes your stuff.
In fact, our TV, Diane turned on the TV once and, for whatever reason it went into pause, when it was on the internet.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, our pictures are showing up on the TV.
Yeah,
She says, when did you put those up?
I didn't, but Google did.
Google
I
did.
know.
Yeah, anything you store in your Google account gets put up there, and if you use their free storage, in the very, 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 very small print,
They have access.
we have access and may use it, for
Yeah.
non-commercial purposes.
But I didn't think Google had anything to do with iCloud.
Well,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
but that's,
that's the other side of Google and free operating systems.
yes,
Is that they
it's
track
open
you.
source.
They look at, they know where you've been.
If you
Yeah,
use
I know Google does.
Google Maps knows where you've been every day,
Yeah.
moment of your life.
Yeah.
Not only where you've been, but where you shop, where you buy things, where
Yeah.
you bank, everything.
Yeah.
So you get ads that are particularly directed to you, right? I mean, then you're not getting ads that have nothing to do with you, I guess.
We were in the States once, walking past, we're in a shopping center, walking past stores, and my phone's going ding, ding, ding. As you walk past the store, you get the ads
It's
from the store.
tracking, yeah,
So automatically.
yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then there's the online backup services, but you would pay for that. And then it talks about this place I went to look at all this stuff. It talks about a network attached storage device. I think I gave in the notes a place you can take a look. It's pcmagazine.com that gives you the information on this. I kind of doubt that anybody, yeah, they say you can buy them for your home, but I don't know.
Yeah, I got one.
You
It's a
might-
server.
It's just a server, yeah,
It's
but
just a
you
server.
can then decide if you wanna pay that kind of money, like, are they expensive? It didn't give me any information, Joe, about how much money they were.
What you do is you use your old computer that you're getting rid of.
Yeah.
You don't want it anymore. And you just attach a bunch of drives to it, and that's your NAS.
Okay, well, I have two old laptops, I'll
Then
have,
you configure your.
Get you to
network so
show
it
me how.
automatically backs up to it.
that'll be interesting.
Idea to
Wait a
back up
minute.
your
No,
file.
no, there we go. Now we're gonna take a look at navigating a screen. So, if you're on your app, on the PC, I think I gave everybody in your notes, you've got that. The taskbar in Windows 11 shows your start menu, search, task view, widgets, chat, file. That's the bottom. If you're on your screen, you can see the very bottom of your screen. And the icons on the screen on the side, if you double click on them, then they open. So we're gonna have some time, I think, today to do some exploration. Navigating on a Mac, I can just, I put them in your notes, but I don't understand Macs myself. But they have the same thing. They have the little bottom tab where you can go and click on things to find where they're at. You can find on the side, on the left-hand side, they've got your apps that are open. And then it shows you what, in the middle, what screen you're on at the time. So I think I put all of these notes in your notes, so whichever one you're on, take the time to look at that. Now the web browser, because we are gonna go on the web today. The title bar is at the top of it tells you application defined icon and the line of text. The text specifies the name of the application and indicates the purpose of that window. The title bar also makes it possible for the user to move the window using a mouse or other pointing device. So that very top bar you click your mouse in there and move that around. So if you wanted to open up another window and do something else, say you're working on a Word document, you can also have that navigator open.
Is this Apple or PC we're talking about? Because I'm confused.
That one's just Google, so you know what, that's just my fault that I only use Google, but I bet you that all the other search engines would have a similar situation where you can maneuver that around. Because you want to be able to go to the internet and make use of information in a document sense. Maybe for me, I was writing up this and I was using the internet for information. And then in the address bar, that's where your URL, so Uniform Resource Locator, that's where it goes. And it usually starts with HTTP, and then 2 forward slashes, or HTTPS, and 2 forward slashes. The difference between it, so the HTTP is Hypertext Transfer Secure Transfer Protocol, and the S is Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. So it's added that extra layer of security for you. Oftentimes when they talk about fraud, you will find the HTTP are ones that you really, really want to watch carefully. Kind of hover your mouse over and see if that's a website that you might not want to go to. And usually they're not as clear, like that one that I showed you before. I think it's in your notes, where PC Mag, you know that one's fine, and it's HTTPS. So the toolbar, also called your standard toolbar, is a row of buttons near the top of an application window. Then it controls your software functions. So you've got all three, and the title bar, no, it just tells you. So now we're going to start on computers. See what you can find. I'm going to hand out all the little sticky notes and colored pens, because what I want you to do is, if you come across something you don't understand, if you come across something, hey, I didn't know about that before, anything interesting, any questions you might have, I want you to put them on the sticky notes, and then I'm gonna put them, you know what, let's just put them up on the window, because we don't have our flip chart. You can set it up, okay, because I tried last time and I was terrible at it. Mechanical things and I don't do well. Seriously, I once worked with an engineer because his English language wasn't the best and he needed help with English, and he said he'd help me with my statistics because math isn't my top priority. So we were talking about some kind of mechanical things, and I think we ended up both in the same class once, and he was going to make a catapult as his project, and I said, no, I'm going to write an essay. He couldn't figure out why on earth I'd want to write an essay if I could make something. He said, I can't make a mechanical pencil work, so I don't think I'm going to try and make any other mechanical thing work. Terry had to help me with this morning, so I mean, really. Okay, so I'll pass things out. You guys, do you want a computer? Who might get you one? A laptop or an Apple? Apple. There's one right